Welcome back to the Game Code. Now, do you like dinosaurs? Do you like lasers? Do you like dinosaurs with lasers on top of them? If the answer is yes, then I know you're going to like our next interviewee an awful lot. Let's go take a look at our interview with Mr. James White. All right, I gotta welcome our good friend James White to the studio, sir. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Excellent. Well, not bad. It's almost as if we did not just have a crazy conversation about how we start our interviews here every single time. Had to get the face on, prepare my body for the coming interview. You are a local artist. You're stationed in Dartmouth, correct?
I am, yep.
Yeah, here in Halifax, which I think that's considered Halifax now, right? They consider it's the HRM.
It's the HRM.
It's the
yeah,
HRM.
Yeah. We're all in one big happy family, yet there's a
Yeah.
harbor and anxiety between the two.
Yes, exactly. Hey, it works out in the end. How did you get started as this in your career? Like, how did you get this whole thing underway? Because you're fairly well known. We're going to get into why you might be fairly well known here pretty soon. But let's start with how you got started in this career.
Yeah. I started drawing when I was 4 years old, pretty much. As soon as I could pick up a pencil, every scrap of paper, just drawing kind of my favorite characters from movies and cartoons and everything. Did that all the way through school and got roped into taking a one-year course, a graphic design course in Truro, Nova Scotia, just an hour north of here. And it was kind of by chance. I originally wanted to be a police officer, but well, I'll cut to the chase. My marks stank, so they don't let you into the police academy when not the movies, the actual
thing.
Yeah,
Although
the actual
to be fair, if we could all get into the police academy, I think a lot more people might be interested.
Yeah, exactly.
In going in.
It's like, I want to be the guy that does the sounds or whatever. So and I wanted to do that, but I had a meeting with my guidance counselor, and he said, "Your marks stink. What do you like doing?" And I said, "Well, I draw like I've been drawing my whole life, like comical characters, whatever." And he gave me a brochure to the Nova Scotia Community College, one-year graphic design course, and they taught me how to make a logo, how to draw properly, how to use a computer to do like Photoshop, Illustrator, all that kind of stuff. Right. And that's pretty much how I got into being a designer.
It just kind of went from there?
Went from there, man, yeah.
Yeah, I had to say, my girlfriend went to NSCC and she's done a lot of the drawing stuff as well. Yeah. She did fashion design work, and so anytime I see somebody who's actually taken that and managed to make something out of it, I'm always impressed because it's not easy.
No,
it's not an easy thing getting into the industry.
No, you're right, and
difficult.
The thing that's not taught to a lot of students going through school and stuff, especially in design, is that you can't take just what they teach you in school and then get a career just from that. It's like you have to take what they teach you and do your own thing with it. You have to explore it. You have to kind of like flesh it out, sort of thing. And that's exactly what that's what you have to do. Personal projects, stuff on your own time.
Yeah, exactly. It is not easy, but it's possible. It is possible. Having looked at some of your work, I have to say I really like your style.
Thanks, man.
I would, in my pea brain artistic side of me would describe it kind of as like a new age retro psychedelic combo. That's kind of what I look at it at. It's the trifecta of words that my brain wants to put together for that. How would you describe your visual style? How did you come to that visual style exactly?
Yeah, it was a long journey. It took like 10 years of like professional time to kind of arrive at that. So I got a job at working for a decade at agencies, and when you're working with local agencies, the companies are great, the people you work with are great, but sometimes the client work isn't very fulfilling. Doing websites for gas stations and spas and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So in my own time, I constantly kind of explored what I wanted to do, and it wasn't until I'm 36 now. It wasn't until I was about 30 that I kind of sat in a quiet room and thought, like, well, what do I want to do? What's my voice? What do I want to use all these skills for? I've been building over the last 10 years. What do I want it to be? And that's when I kind of realized that my inspiration comes from my childhood. Like, I'm a child of the 80s, and I wanted to create stuff that looked like it was fun to make, enthusiasm. And being a kid in the 80s was great because everything was so loud and colorful and over the top.
Neon everything.
Yeah, awesome and silly and ridiculous and all at the same time. And I thought, that's what I want to do. So that really set me free in terms of finding my creative voice and using lots of loud colors and lens flares and lightning. Not a lot of designers use lightning.
That's right. That's right. So that kind of leads into my next bit here, where you did a vintage console collection kind of deal there. How did you? So I'm assuming that the whole 80s thing, although some of it you went a little further than the 80s. Yeah. You took it back to maybe a little bit in the 70s
That's
as
true.
well.
Yeah, that's true.
What are you a gamer yourself? Is that something that you experienced in the 80s growing up? Were you a Nintendo kid and or whatnot? Is that how it all came to be?
Total Nintendo kid. Yeah. Like I played video games. Like now I'm not that avid of a gamer at all. Like I see a lot of video games. I kind of keep up on what's popular and that kind of thing. But I don't actually game myself. But back then, man, like I had I started with the Atari 2600. A cousin gave me like the old school with a shoebox just packed with video games.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I played those cartridge games. Then my family got a Commodore 128, a used one, and again it came with that shoebox full of floppy disks.
Absolutely.
With a ton of games and whatever else. And and then it wasn't until I got the first NES that I was like,
completely hooked.
This is it, man. And then the Super Nintendo, somehow they won up the NES. I couldn't believe it. So, and I'll say this right now for everybody. Hope it don't alienate your audience or whatever. I was a Nintendo kid, and since 1988, I've had a staunch no Sega policy.
Oh!
Sorry.
Ouch!
Sorry, everybody involved here.
Well, luckily
I'll
we're not.
never be asked back.
Luckily, we're not in 1999 when that would have hurt way more than it does now.
I know, man. I wasn't a Genesis guy.
But you know, you know what? To be fair, outside of a couple of key games in the Genesis, Nintendo was kind of where it's at.
It was, yeah.
You know, it's that I can't hate. I got to appreciate that opinion. Now, the big thing, and obviously what a lot of people would probably love to know because it was so popular recently in your work was your Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon.
Yeah.
Which I had to go back and refresh my memory by watching the trailer again. Because I haven't played it, but I saw the trailer when it first came out, and my mind was just like blowing constantly through this entire trailer because all I'm seeing is like, you know, Terminator and every 80s themed like kind of action going on, and the voiceover guy and everything was fantastic. And then of course you were involved with the art direction for that and the art and for the cover as well and stuff, right?
Yeah. Like I didn't do any of the actual art direction within the game. My stuff was I designed the official logo for the game and 3 kind of promotional posters or box art. I mean, it was a downloadable game. But my art was considered the box art for it, and
it was fantastic.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Fantastic.
It was super fun, man. You know, and I got to credit like my buddy Dean Evans. He's the creative director at Ubisoft, who's actually a friend of Jason Eisner's, writer and director of Hobo with a Shotgun here in Dartmouth.
Right. Yeah.
So he kind of got referred to me through Jason, and he just called me up one day, thick British accent, and described this game to me. Where within 10 minutes we're talking about Uzis and ninjas and everything else. I'm like, I'm gonna get along with this guy.
That's what when you said, you know, you're a kid of the 80s, and then it was like Blood Dragon comes through. That's
totally
a perfect match
Oh,
for you.
You ain't kidding, man. It was the best. Like to date, like I've been doing this professional design thing for about 13, 14 years now, and that is by far my funnest client job ever. You know, because it wasn't like I was working with a client. Like Dean is also 36, so he has the same upbringing that I do. And we both grew up at the same time, and we were both into the same dumb crap. So it's like I'm just working with a buddy on this, you know.
Which is the dream, really. Like anybody who's in anything creative, you can go through that whole career just doing menial stuff for people that isn't necessarily lined up with what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then you get those dream opportunities that come up where you get somebody who's on the same, wavelength.
Exactly, man.
And it's glorious, isn't it?
It's beautiful, yeah.
It's
and
beautiful.
even playing the game, like I said earlier, I'm not a modern gamer, so the day that it was available on the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation stores, so we downloaded it. Now my girlfriend she's into Final Fantasy. She plays it all the time. She's into like PS3. She's hooked on it, man. She's playing Final Fantasy 14 right now.
Hey.
So
that's not bad.
So she's like a real gamer.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So Doofus here downloads the game, and I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to play this. It's going to be the best thing ever. I cannot wait. I'm playing like I have 8 thumbs, and I'm just like, I can't. And my girlfriend's like, hit R4, and I'm like, what's R4? I don't know what that is. What do I do? And my guy's like looking at the sky and spinning around. I'm like, I don't know how to play modern games, and it was so infuriating because I wanted to see the game that my buddy built, and I can't see it because I suck.
Well, it's to be fair, anybody who's jumped the gap from like the Nintendo era, like in the 90s and stuff, and then skipping the controller change where analog sticks became a thing.
Yeah.
That's like your brain seriously, you can't deal with it because you like it was like showing my girlfriend we're the opposite. I'm a gamer. Girlfriend's not a gamer.
Yeah.
Put her in front of a game for the first time just to get her to like walk straight and use the other one to look left and right. exactly what you just
Yeah,
described.
it's
to the ceiling doing this.
yeah, and it's just like what's
And just
happening?
spinning around in circles in the ceiling. And that was the entire like 15-minute experience. So I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
And she's sitting there going, "There's a guy shooting you. There's a guy shooting you. There's a guy shooting you." And I'm like, I don't see a guy. He's like hit our. Yeah.
And it all just
like,
went away.
Is there A, B buttons? I don't know.
Well, good news. It went over really well critically and otherwise. So he did a
heard.
fantastic job. Sit tight, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be right back with the man who can make anything look good with lasers in their eyes, Mr. James White.